Hello, hello, hello. Happy Sunday to you as we begin a new week. I just want to come on and share with you for a while. And we're going to call it Real Talk because that's what we're going to have this afternoon. We're going to have a fireside chat. And before we do that, will someone please let me know that you can hear me, see me, um, and we will move right on into what we have to discuss today. All right, last week we talked about the bucket list. It was Mother's Day, and we thank God for all the mothers. We um, shared how mothers are just so instrumental. Thank you, Gloria. You can hear me and see me, so thank you very much. We talked about mothers last week, Gloria. Some of us still have our mothers, others unfortunately don't. We have maternal mothers. We have mothers, people that have women that have stepped in to serve as our mothers in their absence or in just sharing, in rearing a child. And so we said mothers are those people that are so special. Um, they're the only ones that can be called a wife, an aunt, a sister, a grandmother, a granddaughter, a woman, a lady, a queen. All of those are women. And most of them, um, are mothers. There are some women that serve, like I said, as mothers to others. So recently we have celebrated Women's Month in March and then Mother's Day. And mothers are just so special. And we say mothers are the ones that make sure that the gifts are wrapped and they're under the tree. The father may be instrumental in buying those gifts or helping to buy those gifts, right, Diane? And birthday parties, sometimes people show up. But as a child, the mothers are responsible for the cake, the balloons, the candles, the invitations, the setup, the cleanup. um, Mothers just have a whole, and women just have a whole lot of tasks ahead of them. And we say that women, mothers, rock their babies to sleep like no one else can. Um, and they're there when their children participate in school or in something at church or the community. Grandmothers, mothers, women, we are special. And I said all of that to say we are so special that oftentimes we forget ourselves. We lose ourselves in the process because we are told, in case of an accident, put the oxygen mask on yourself first, okay? Because they know that we just get so caught up in multitasking and doing what women do and doing what mothers do that we oftentimes forget about ourselves. And we talked a little bit about how we could take care of ourselves, how we should plan for our future, for our life. And we talked about the bucket list. And on that bucket list, we talked about why the bucket list is so important because each of us has the day we're born, and prayerfully we'll live a long life, and then we will eventually have the day we die. And so the difference is the dash. What lies between your dash? It can be a small dash and you can make great impact, or it could be a long fruitful life and you'll have a chance to multiply and be fruitful. And so some of the things we talked about on the bucket list, I challenged you to go to your corner. Um, and like in boxing, you're down for the count. If you get knocked out, you got to get up before the 8 count. And so you go to your corner and you get instructions, and they tell you whether you're doing good, whether you are winning the rounds, or what you need to do to pick up the pace. All right. But most of all, they encourage you to go back out there and try it again, because the game, the boxing match is not over until the winner is declared, whether it's a tie or whether it's a win for you or the other person. Your job is to, if you get knocked down, hope that you're on your back so you can look up. And if you can look up, you can get up. So that bucket list tells us that there are things that we need to do, or that we want to do. And because we want to do those things, I challenge you to get in a corner, some quiet time for yourself. Thank you, Tammy and Mary, for getting on. Get some quiet time for yourself and think about some things that you always wanted to do as a child. You know, we as children, I don't know about you, but I had some big dreams. They all may not have been realistic, but I'll bet you they weren't small on the end of not thinking that I could accomplish them. So we encouraged you to dream big, get into a corner, to create your bucket list. And the bucket list would be things that you want to do in life. But what you were challenged to do was to put a date, a deadline date. That means so much when you're planning to accomplish something. So again, dream. And if you're going to dream big. And it says, just planning out the things that you want to do in life. And they gave us a bucket list of things that you wanted to do. And I hope that you accepted the challenge. And one of them was travel, because a lot of us love to travel. I know I do. You have some bucket lists as it relates to your career, your finance, your health, and your fitness. So traveling was one thing. And we found that there were some people that had been to Hawaii, while Hawaii was still on the dream list for most of us. Diane had been to Hawaii. And some of us want to learn a new language. Spanish is becoming a second language, if not a first language, in some parts of the country. So we talked about a lot of things. And so when you dream, most times you can't realize a lot of your dreams, although there are things that you could put on your bucket list that doesn't cost you anything. Some people just desire to have a peaceful walk in the park, or to ride to a new destination and spend the night. Some people just want to have a conversation with someone that they want to say thank you for impacting my life. Doesn't cost you anything. Just pick up the phone and call. So we gave you a list of things that were considered things for your bucket list. So today on Sunday's Best, and I'm glad you're here, it's going to be a two-part series. We're going to talk about why you may have been hesitant to put certain things on your bucket list. You know what? Money ain't everything, but it's up there with oxygen. You got to have some to live. And if you're going to live from dash to dash, I'll bet you can do that better when you have the option of having some money. And you know what? I'm here to tell you, it's not that we don't have, in some cases, the money we need to do the things or to live the lifestyle that we want. It's how we manage what we have. There's a big difference between having and managing. A big difference between being a consumer and being an investor, or being a consumer and being a saver. All right. So the money conversation is a difficult one to have. Andrea, thank you for getting on. The money conversation is taboo. Most people don't want you to know what they don't have and what they do have. And because of that, it's a difficult conversation for some people to have. You don't know what you don't know. Okay? It's okay that I don't know how much money you have, but it's not okay if I know something that can help you and I don't know that you need the help because I don't know. So what you don't know can hurt you. All right? So what we're going to talk about in a two-part series, and I'm going to borrow some stuff from Dave Ramsey and Chris Hogan, because we did their book in our Millionaire Book Club, and we found some startling facts about the haves and the have-not. And the main difference was it still boiled down to how they manage their money. So when it comes down to debt, debt comes at a price. You either pay me now or you pay me later. And most people, because they want instant gratification, they're going to pay later. They're going to get it now and pay for it later. How many of you on here remember back in the 80s, the bigger the TV, the more we wanted it? The big, big, big screen TV. And a lot of people went to Sears and got those TVs. And Sears had a 21 and 22% interest rate. So the TV that you may have paid $3,000 for, that you may have thought you paid $3,000 for, cost you in the end well over $10,000. And then you know what? Then there became a time you couldn't give those things away. When people were moving, they would say, well, I don't know how we're going to get that big screen TV from upstairs. So instant gratification, we get into debt to buy things that we forgot how much we paid for it and things that we don't even use anymore. So it said debt comes with a price. Would getting out of debt be a game changer for you and your family? Would getting out of debt be a game changer for you and your family? So I hope it would be. And it says paying off debt isn't about the math. It is about the behavior. So, because if you pay off a credit card and you go charge up another credit card, you're not getting out of debt. You may be zeroing out one account, but if you're using another credit card to get into more debt, that is the behavior that will keep you in debt. And another thing they said about debt, debt comes in all shapes and sizes. One size does not fit all. Okay? All of us on here can be in debt for a lot of money. Sandra Bolton, Jeanette Johnson, yes, debt. And Gloria Moore says, money is a critical part of living. We have to use it wisely. The cost of using credit card versus cash, it can cost you something. I'm just going to tell you that. And Diane says, Sandra Bolton says, buying things to impress people who don't even like themselves is absolutely correct. They're acting like somebody that they're not, and you trying to be who they want to be, and you end up with two people because they're not authentic. They're copycats. And you know what I say? If you're going to copy, you better copy the right cat. All right? Because otherwise, you're going to be going down, down, down. And Diane says, my Lord, yes, it would be. It would be a game changer if I didn't have debt. To only have the basic payment would be great. So debt comes in all sizes. And we're going to be exploring some things on this particular tonight and next week. So it says why debt comes with a price. And you know what they say, if you're trying to get to the bottom of something, ask who, when, what, and why. So debt, what is it? It's owing someone. It's having an agreement to pay a person, a company, or an organization. It's a commitment. Most times it's written. So you ask, how? How do I get into debt? Because you don't have the money, or you don't wait until you have the money to buy something. So you sign an agreement so that you can get it right away. All right. And so what that makes, when the Bible talks about the servant being a slave to the lender, you know, if you don't owe anybody any money, let me give you an example. You can be friends with someone for a long period of time. You work together. You never borrowed any money from them, but you come upon hard times and you borrow some money from them. And it's getting pretty close to the time that you need to pay them back. And you know you're not going to have it. That's a tough conversation to have. But guess what? Your image to that person may change if you don't pay your commitment, because that was debt. So if you don't show up for work one day, they said, I wonder what she's doing. Where in the past they'd say, oh, she's just off today. Or if you go out of town, and you may be going out of town to try to make some money to pay them back, but they may think you're on a vacation and they're going to look at you funny. So when you are the person that is in debt to someone, they judge you differently. So when you're in debt, don't get in over your head. But if you find yourself in over your head, we're going to talk about some ways that you need to do. And the first thing is fess up. I made an obligation that I can't keep right now. And let the person know before it's time to repay the debt. And it goes on to say, there is good debt and there is bad debt. But the better thing is, if you're debt free, how would it feel to be debt free? And good debt, bad debt, we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Debt can cause you to worry. It's hard not to worry when you can't figure out where you're going to get the money from to pay your bills. Those bills are called debt. And you owe and you owe and you owe. And so you go to work and you pay everybody except the person that needs to be paid, which is you. And you know why? Because debt comes in front, is stacked in front of you. And you have dates and amounts that you have to pay in debt. But to yourself, you don't consider yourself important enough to pay yourself every pay period. And I say that that is so very important to get paid, but it's also important not to be overly obligated. So it says debt can cause you worry. It can cause you severe health issues like ulcers, migraine headaches, depression, and even heart attacks. So if debt is that important, why aren't we having the money conversation more? Why aren't we figuring out, I know something that I did that helped me to think better, to change my behavior, to get out of debt. And I bet it can help you too. But you know why we don't have the conversation? Because a money conversation is very difficult for most of us. We don't want to let you in. And so therefore, we don't tell you where we are. And therefore, we can't help each other. And a lot of us have the same money matters and that is we don't manage it well. All right. So, what is too much debt? Too much debt can turn good things into bad things. Too much debt, it starts off as a good thing and it turns out to be a bad thing because of the amount of it and how you handle it. And we all handle it differently. So, carrying a ton of debt without a plan to pay it off often leads to a horrible end. Horrible. What lies between your dash? Surely there are more important things than not being able to pay for a big screen TV or paying for a car that you can barely make the car payments, but then you're renting the rims to put on a car. Or you barely have $500 for an emergency fund and you're spending $14, $15, $1,600 a month for rent. Or you're buying a house to impress somebody that ain't got nothing but more debt. And you can't sleep at night because you fear not being able to pay your debt. So, good debt, bad debt. If you got to do it, try to make it count. So, Dave Ramsey has a lot of different opinions. A lot of people don't agree with him. Some things I don't agree with, but a lot of it I do. His principles and Chris Hogan's book that we did in the book review were eye openers for many of us. A mortgage is the biggest debt that most people have. Student loans is becoming almost worse than the mortgage because it can keep you from not having something. The very thing you use to go to school, get a good education, get a good job, buy the things that you can afford in life, charge the things that you want in life, and pay that student loan back. And that student loan is like a chain and ball around some people's neck right now. But that would be, a student loan is still a good debt to have if it's going to help you to make the kind of income to live the kind of lifestyle that you want. A small business loan is a good debt. Owning rental property, having passive income is a good debt. Flipping properties is a good debt if it creates profit. Bad debts are payday loans, up to 200 and 300% interest. That's not good debt. Multiple high interest rate credit cards, not a good debt. A luxury lifestyle that you can't even afford is not a good debt. Credit cards or a car note that you can't afford is not a good debt. Even if it's a lease, it's not a good debt. All right. So we talked about debt. Why debt comes with a price. Is the picture coming very clear to you now? Our aim should be to become debt free. How would you feel if you were debt free? If that paycheck that you made belonged to you, and if all you had to do was pay tithe and do whatever you wanted to do because you didn't owe anybody, how would you feel? I know you're talking to me. I know you're saying it, how you feel. And you're probably saying like James Brown, I feel good, like I knew that I would. I'm making light of it, but it's a heavy topic because most people don't talk about it. Gloria says, it's been a game changer for me. Great, great. Diane says, one good thing about the pandemic is that I started paying off some of my bills. Excellent, excellent. We're going to talk about that next week. I had to learn to pay the smallest bill and work my way to the larger bill. Diane, you're on it because we're going to talk about the snowball of debt, how to get out of it. 27 ways. We're going to talk about that next week. And Sandra said, I love that. Copy the right cat. You know, you could be copying from somebody and copy their name off their paper. You can have all the right answers, but when the teacher sees you don't know your name, you already told on yourself. All right. And when we say copy the right cat, if somebody is making what you consider the right moves and they're doing well in life and you see their life as being successful, respectful, um, and you want to copy them, make sure that they're authentic. Don't just copy the person that's out there that's shining with all the diamonds and all the glitter and the fancy cars and the um, all the name brand purses, and they got a ring on every finger. And if they can afford it, that's fine. That might be the right cat for you to copy, but you don't have to emulate. Um, you want to know how that person got that and what are they doing to keep that. All right. So that's one of those things. Somebody said to me, um, that something, we were talking about cars and car payments. And I said, you know what? I said, I thank God that I haven't had a car payment now in about 18 years. I said, yeah, I got an old car, but I love not having the car payments. Eventually, I will have to probably do something different. But when it comes down to the goal should be not to have a car payment. The goal should be to own rather than rent. The goal should be to own some rental property that somebody is paying for and then putting some extra money into your account. The next thing it said, a good goal is to be debt free by retirement, either at 65 or earlier. Don't plan to take, one of the things you need to take into retirement with you is not a heavy debt load. The plan should be to be debt free, or at least have a manageable level of debt when you retire. Okay. Um, some say you should be debt free by 45. What if all of us on this call, somebody had this conversation with us, and we weren't afraid to talk about money, and we weren't afraid to ask for help. Um, and at 45, we were debt free. How would that feel? What would you do in the morning if you were 45 and you were debt free? Debt free, Sandra says, is where I'd love to be. Jeanette Johnson says, me too. Being debt free feels real good. All right. Some people even commit suicide. That's true, Sandra. Some people are in debt so heavy, it's weighing them down and they don't see any way out, not even bankruptcy, not even foreclosure. Um, they just want to, they just want out. They don't see a way out. So they just want to end their dash prematurely and die because they cannot see themselves coming out of debt. This debt is a four-letter word, but it is heavy, very heavy. And the cost of debt is going to cost you something now or later. What's a reasonable amount of debt for you and your household? That's a serious question that I want you to answer, and sit down, like we said, in a quiet place. And it's hard facing the man in the mirror. It's hard saying, I worked 25 years and what? I'm about to retire. I worked 40 years and I'm in more debt than I was in 20 years ago. How did that happen? Remember, we said the debt conversation is a who, what, when, and why, and how. And so Sometimes no one else can answer your question. They can offer you help, but they don't know how deep you're in. All right. And your debt may be a little bit different and a little bit harder. Their debt may be a little bit harder to climb out from under. Like, say, that student loan. It's too big. You can't pay it off. You work every day. You get paid. You pay the student loan. You find yourself in bad times. You can't buy a house because the student loan is preventing you from buying. But even if you file bankruptcy, you're still going to owe that student loan. So somebody else's situation, we won't make light of anybody's situation because it may be a lot deeper than you have had to go into those depths with your debt. And it says, so what is reasonable for you and your household? Until you find out what is reasonable, you are likely to keep on spending and spiraling out of control. We'd rather be a consumer than an investor. Consumerism puts no money in your pocket. It puts money into the economy. Investing, if you invest smartly, it should put the profits in a safe place for you, and it should help you to get out of debt. Now, I'm going to end it with this. 10 types of debts you should avoid. These 10 types of debt are called toxic debt. That's right, toxic debt. The fumes, the smell, the illness, the personality. People's personality change when they're struggling. They don't want you to know that they're struggling. They want to keep up the facade of all is well. I'm wearing this fine outfit. I'm driving this fine car. Our kids are in the best school. We go to the best places, 5-star hotels. We go to the best restaurants. All of that is good. But if it is being afforded by being in over your head in debt, it's going to cost you something. How much are you willing to pay? Because it's going to cost you something. So the top, number 10 is the top debt you should avoid. Avoid owing IRS at all cost, because they come after you, and they come after you strong. And I'll tell you, during the recession of 2008, ask me, I know. You can delay, but you can't deny. Pay IRS. Find a way to pay IRS, or they will get paid. He ain't your uncle. He ain't your rich uncle. He may be your rich uncle, but you're going to pay him. Unlike they say, you're born with the silver spoon in your mouth, or you got a rich uncle. That's how you got where you got. That's how you keep what you got. You come from old money. Well, old Uncle Sam may be lenient to a point, like you got a 30-day grace period to pay the taxes, but tomorrow they're due. All right? Unless you are self-employed, we have until October. Nonetheless, they're still due. Equity lines, home equity lines is one of the things that Dave Ramsey says you should avoid. Well, I say, I'm not the authority on it, but it depends on what you take that money out of your home and what you do with it. But remember the big picture. You then have 2 mortgages. And if you don't pay that second mortgage, which is called an equity line or a HELOC, you can lose your home. So that's why it's toxic. It can be toxic. You can make anything good bad by the way you use it. Credit card debt. Do your best to limit your credit card debts. New auto loans. In the Dave Ramsey course, it talks about, and in talking to a lot of other people, a lot of millionaires, um, they rarely buy a brand new car. Rarely does a millionaire drive off of a car lot with a brand new car. They'll buy a real brand car. They'll spend their time studying up on what car has the best benefits, and then they'll look for the price. And then they'll look for one that's 1 to 2 years old. Or they'll look for one that has been leased by someone, and that person that leased it turned it back in, car dealership fixed it up, and they'll sell it because it's no longer new. So they said that is that you should avoid the toxicity of buying brand new cars if you can't afford them. Student loans. If you have a student, a child or a grandchild that can get a scholarship to school, you are saving their lives, their financial lives in the end. Because it's my understanding, I've only gone to college part-time as an adult, but it's my understanding that you get, when you get these grants or when you get the whatever, the student can use that money for housing, but they can use it for other things too. And some of them choose to use it for other things. And then when they finish that 4 or 5 years of college, they owe 80, 90, 100,000. Then they might get out and get a $30,000, $40,000 a year job. They have to have an apartment. They have to have transportation. They have to have insurance unless they get it on the job. So they already have a whole list of things that they need to live, but they got to pay that student loan. And sometimes you can move it over a few years and not pay it. But when you're going to buy a home, they're going to look at that as a future obligation, and they're going to count some of that in your income to debt ratio. So even a good thing like getting a good education, a lot of people end up educated, graduated, and broke. Not everybody. All right. So if a child can get a scholarship, that is great. Whether it be academic or sports, they already come out of the gate ahead of 98% of college students if they don't have that ball and chain of a student loan hanging on their back. All right, so Gloria Kinley is with us tonight. Rent and roll, Sandra says, that's what they call it, rent and roll. And Andreas says, guilt, pride, and shame often keep people from having the money conversation. I approve that message 150%. It happens all the time. And Gloria Kinley says it's so true. Yeah, Sandra, a champagne taste on a beer budget. I love all these comments. I obviously picked a good one for tonight. Live within your means. They always told us that. If you could go back and do it all over again, if I could go back and do it all over again, says Gloria Moore, I would certainly do it differently, living and loving a debt-free life. Mary Fulton, thank you for coming back to Sunday's Best. And Jeanette Johnson said it would feel good to wake up to a debt-free day. Sandra says snowballing, that's the way, one of the process that we can use. Gloria Kinley said, I'd love to be debt-free. Gloria, I'd love for you to be debt-free as well. Copied the whole name off somebody else's paper. Debt-free snowball works. We don't know their story, don't know what works for you. So that's right. We don't know their story. When we see people that we think are balling, or as the young people say, they're doing the thing. We don't know their story. So love not having a car payment. The goal is to get out of debt, and the point is to do it safely. And Diane says, I'm working toward that goal to be debt free. And Vivian says she got on late. But Vivian, we've been having a very good conversation. And if you can, go back and listen to it. We're going to have a part two. Genevieve Burgess joined us. Genevieve, if you got on late, go back and listen to this one. I think it's a good one. And when the Bible says, "Oh no, man," that's a good thing. Because remember, I said debt, you either owe a person, a company, or an organization. And you don't want to owe and owe and owe and not be able to pay and pay and pay. And the worst thing you can do is work all your life for your bills. And when you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and when you're retiring and you're still in a lot of debt, you worked for debt. You didn't work for your freedom. And remember, as I said in the beginning, debt free is going to cost you something. So next week, we're going to enter the second part of it, and we're going to talk about some ways that you can, 27 ways, excuse me, 27 ways to get out of debt in 2021. And I'm going to take a play out of the Dave Ramsey book and add some of my own secret sauce to it. I know that it felt so good. 2 years ago, we sold one property that we had rented for, I think about 21 years or close to 20 years. And we had rented that property for over and received rents of over 200,000 over those years. And no, I'm sorry, this one, it wasn't 20 some years. We had bought the home in the late 90s and we sold it. And we sold the house, paid off that house and our rental properties with the proceeds. So when we talk about good debt, bad debt, and talk about getting out of debt and how good that felt, it didn't release us from all debt, but to use one property to get rid of debt on 7 other properties, it really felt good. It was a good mortgage burning session and a great mindset. So I hope that you take what I went over tonight. What I repeated from last week was, I still want you to work on that bucket list, because it's so important. When we're young, we don't know what we can't do. So we dream and we dream big and we say, I want to do this and I want to be this and I want to be that. Well, you know what? Some of that stuff is still not too late to do. I had a session with somebody that said, all my life, I just wanted to ride a horse. I never had the experience of riding a horse. That can't cost you a fortune. I bet you can figure out how to skip Starbucks or not go out to dinner one weekend and find a company that owns horses and offer horseback riding. And if you go out there and your dream is that big and you can express it, they might let you ride for free. All right. So it's those kind of things. Never be too small-minded to think big. Never be too small-minded to think big. And so until next week, have a good night. Have a great week. Have a great life. In fact, have $1 million life. Take care. Sunday's best.